Our founding fathers created what I consider a preamble to the Constitution. It's called the Declaration of Independence. And that preamble said something that no other government in the history of mankind had ever recognized. What it said is that government is here to secure the rights of its people, but they're just not any rights, they're God-given rights. And those God-given rights can't be taken away by man because they don't come from man. And therefore, when government secures those rights, it's legitimate. And when government fails to protect those God-given rights, it's time for a revolution. If you read the Declaration of Independence, that's exactly what that document said. And did you know that our government would not be here today had it not been for the Bill of Rights? And what's the Bill of Rights? Well, the Constitution had all these duties of government, but the Founding Fathers in the individual states says, we're not ratifying that. We're not ratifying that because we know that governments have a tendency to grow. Governments have a tendency to usurp the freedom and to start subjecting people to tyranny. So we want a Bill of Rights. We want to not just say what the government can do, we want to say what the government can't do. So we have little words in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, that Congress shall make no law. Congress shall make no law affecting religion, freedom of the press, freedom of speech. Congress will not confiscate your property without just compensation. It's one thing after another thing after another thing. Our founding fathers were geniuses. They knew American history. They knew world history. They knew what government was capable of, so they did their best. They did their best to give us a Bill of Rights. And they bled and died to give us those rights, and so did our fathers and grandfathers and great-grandfathers. The question is, what are we going to do with that freedom? Are we going to let the foundation of our country crumble and erode into oblivion?
No.
Well, we've got the power. We've got the power to control our government, and it's the power of the vote. Unfortunately, there's a whole lot of people who aren't registered. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are registered that won't vote. But you know what? If you get on the phone when you leave here today, if you walk your block this weekend, if you will start sending out email blasts to everybody you know, you can make a difference. The polls have been wrong before. I want Meg, not Moonbeam. You know, Abel Maldonado earned the wrath of conservatives. Now, I consider Abel a friend, but I gave his phone number out every single hour for a week when he was going to vote for those higher taxes, and vote he did. But you know what? I'm not one that say and fail to recognize that Abel Maldonado on his worst day is better than Gavin Newsom on his best. Tony Strickland's on the show regularly. Tony Strickland's got a great chance to beat John Chung. Let me bring this home. I was at a state lands commission. And you know, people talk about big oil, the gross polluters, and we're Bass Peak oil, all this stuff. But did you know that the oil companies don't own the oil offshore? That oil belongs to the California residents. It belongs to the state of California. So we had a slant drill project off the coast of Santa Barbara, and even the environmental community was supporting it. The project came before the State Lands Commission, and John Chung, who is our current state controller that Tony Strickland is challenging, voted against it 2-1. Now, PXP was going to write a check for $100 million to the state of California as a down payment on the royalties. The royalties would have added up to several $billion. John Chung voted no. on that project the same week he was issuing IOUs to California taxpayers. Folks, we have over 1 billion barrels of oil off the Santa Barbara's coast, 10 billion barrels off the California coast, and over 1 trillion cubic feet of gas. You do the math. If that oil goes up to $100 a barrel, how much is 10 billion barrels of oil worth to the state of California? And yet they say no to that. Again, we get the government we deserve. California is a finely honed job-killing machine, and we're suffering from self-inflicted blows to our own economy by our own government. And it's up to you to rise up. It's up to you to start telling people about what's going on. How many of you here own a small business? How many of you work for a small business? Because I'd like to know, how many of you business people or how many of you employees, has anybody ever sat down and explained to you the cost of doing business in the state of California? As a small business owner, have you ever showed them how much work comp costs, property taxes? Do those employees know that you have to match what they pay in to some of these entitlement programs? Did you know that in about 10 to 15 years, we're not going to be able to afford our military anymore because of debt payments and entitlement payments? Folks, we're in serious trouble here. It is time to get mobilized and to deal up front, close and personal with the people that are creating these problems for us. There are elected officials. They're the people that put ballot measures on there to rob us blind. And the only thing standing between us and oblivion is you. Right. Multiply yourself. Talk to people. Get out the vote. Volunteer to do phone banking this weekend. Walk precincts this weekend. Hand out flyers. You got a Prop 23 bumper sticker? Use that. Carry that with you wherever you go between now and Tuesday. And anybody you run into, explain AB 32 and Prop 23. Last week, we had 850 people come here. Patrick Moore, the founder of Greenpeace, speak to us. The Tribune didn't think that was news. This guy can shred every argument that the environmental community brings out, and he was the leader, the original leader of the first global environmental organization. That's not news. A physicist from UCSB and 199 of his colleagues challenged a society they belong to. Just said that global warming science is not incontrovertible. They were denied a debate. They quit. None of this has made the news. Our show, I hope to get it on in Paso Robles sometime. We would like to have you as CoLab members. We love the fact that you're part of the Tea Party movement. Focus on local, state, and federal issues that you can make a difference, and you can make a difference by getting out the vote between now and Tuesday. Thank you for having me.